Dive into a hilarious and heartwarming tech romance about a brilliant, socially awkward FinTech founder, August Reeves, who accidentally falls for his intimidating venture capital investor, Catherine Jones. During a high-stakes $10 million pitch, August misses every social cue, explaining font choices instead of financials, yet sparks fly with the highly disciplined VC. The pitch-perfect disaster, a love story in term sheets and awkward silences. Chapter 1, in which our hero completely misses every social cue. August Reeves was having what most people would call a moment. Standing in the glass-walled conference room of Silverton Ventures on the 42nd floor of a building that probably cost more than a small country's GDP, he was delivering the pitch of his life. Or rather, he was supposed to be. Instead, he was explaining in excruciating detail why the font choice on slide 17 was Helvetica Noah and not regular Helvetica, and how this reflected their company's commitment to being modern but not pretentious. Though, arguably, August continued, pushing his glasses up his nose with one finger, the irony of choosing a font to appear not pretentious is itself pretentious, which I suppose makes it a double negative and therefore acceptable. His co-founder, Marcus Webb, was making a face that suggested he was either having a stroke or trying to communicate telepathically. August didn't notice. He was too busy noticing her. Catherine Jones sat at the head of the conference table like a queen presiding over a particularly boring execution. His. She was the kind of beautiful that men forget their bank pins and women question their sexuality. Raven black hair pulled back in a way that said, "I'm professional, but also somehow I could destroy you." A charcoal suit that probably cost more than August's entire wardrobe. And eyes, gray-blue like a storm over the ocean, that were currently watching him with an expression he couldn't quite parse. Was she interested? Bored? Plotting his demise? Planning her grocery list? August did what he always did when he couldn't read someone's expression. He kept talking. The statistical probability of a successful exit in the fintech space is actually quite fascinating. If you account for market saturation, regulatory overhead, and the average lifespan of venture-backed startups, we're looking at approximately... Mr. Reeves, Catherine's voice cut through his monologue like a knife through butter, a very sharp knife, an expensive Japanese chef's knife that could probably also cut through his dignity. I've read your deck. I've seen your numbers. What I want to know is, why should I give you $10 million? August blinked. This was a straightforward question. He appreciated straightforward questions. Unfortunately, his brain chose this moment to register that Catherine Jones smelled like something expensive and complicated. Was that jasmine? Sandalwood? The crushed dreams of entrepreneurs? And his carefully prepared answer evaporated. Because, he started, then stopped. His mind, usually a steel trap for financial data and market analytics, was suddenly full of static. Because we're good at what we do? It came out as a question. Marcus made a sound like a dying seal. Catherine's eyebrow, perfectly shaped, naturally, arched upward. Are you asking me or telling me? Telling you, August said, with more conviction than he felt. We're good at what we do. Our platform streamlines B2B payments with blockchain integration and AI-driven fraud detection. We've processed over 50 million in transactions in our beta phase with a fraud rate of 0.003%, which is, he was back on solid ground now, statistically impossible, except we did it, so I suppose it's just improbable, which is much better from a reality standpoint. The corner of Catherine's mouth twitched. August's brain registered this as possible smile indicator, but filed it under uncertain, needs more data. Our user retention is 94%, he continued, warming to his topic. Our CAC is $37 with an LTV of over 2,000. Our burn rate is sustainable for 18 months without additional funding. But with your investment, we could scale to enterprise clients and potentially capture 15% of the mid-market payment processing sector within 3 years. And why, Catherine leaned forward slightly, did you choose to meet at 2 p.m. instead of 2 or 3 like a normal person? August froze. This was a trick question. He could feel it. Marcus was shaking his head almost imperceptibly, which August interpreted correctly as, "Please God, don't answer that honestly." He answered honestly, "Because I calculated that you'd have back-to-back meetings today, and most people schedule them on the hour or half hour. A 2 p.m. meeting means you'd have 13 minutes of buffer time before your next commitment, which would allow for overrun without making you anxious about the next appointment. Also, unusual meeting times are more memorable, which increases our chances of you remembering us by approximately 23% according to a study on memory retention and pattern disruption." The room went silent. Marcus looked like he wanted to crawl under the table and die. The two junior associates flanking Catherine had expressions of pure confusion. Catherine Jones, venture capitalist extraordinaire, breaker of startups, maker of unicorns, did something unexpected. She laughed. Not a polite boardroom chuckle. A real laugh that crinkled the corners of her eyes and made her seem suddenly shockingly human. "Mr. Reeves," she said, still smiling, "you're either the most strategic person I've ever met or the most accidentally brilliant. I haven't decided which." August started, then stopped. "Is that a compliment?" "Take it however you want." She stood, smoothing her suit. "I'll be in touch, probably at an unusual time, to be memorable." Was that sarcasm? Flirting? A simple statement of fact? August's brain flagged it as all of the above error, need more processing time. "Thank you for your time," Marcus jumped in, practically shoving August toward the door. "We look forward to hearing from you." As they waited for the elevator, Marcus turned to August with the expression of a man who'd survived a natural disaster. "Well," he said, "that was either the best pitch meeting we've ever had or the absolute worst. I genuinely cannot tell." August pushed the elevator button 3 times in precise succession, his usual habit. "She said she'd be in touch. That's positive." "She said she'd be in touch." That could mean anything from, "I'm writing the check now," to, "I never want to see you again, but I'm too polite to say it." "Why would people say things they don't mean?" August asked, genuinely puzzled. "It seems inefficient." "Welcome to society, buddy. Population. Everyone but you." Chapter 2, in which electronic communication becomes dangerous. Catherine Jones did indeed get in touch, at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. August was still at the office, their office being a renovated warehouse space in what Marcus generously called an emerging neighborhood and what everyone else called that sketchy area under the highway, when his phone pinged. "Catherine Jones, your numbers are interesting. Tell me about your security architecture. I want technical details, not marketing speak." August stared at the message. Then he did what anyone with Asperger's and no sense of self-preservation would do. He responded immediately with a 2,000-word text message explaining their end-to-end encryption, tokenization protocols, and API security measures. At 11 p.m., his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on the 4th ring. 3 seemed too eager, 5 seemed rude. "Hello? Did you just send me a master's thesis via text message?" Catherine's voice, amused. You asked for technical details." Most people would have said, "Can we schedule a call?" or "I'll send over our security documentation." "Oh," August processed this. "Would you prefer I had done that?" "No," she said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "No, this is much more interesting. Walk me through the authentication protocol." They talked for 2 hours about security architecture and compliance frameworks and the Byzantine complexity of financial regulations. Catherine asked questions that made August think, challenged assumptions he'd made, and caught inconsistencies he'd missed. It was, August realized somewhere around 1 a.m., the best conversation he'd had in months. "You really love this, don't you?" Catherine asked. "The technical side. Most founders just want the glory and the exit." "The exit is just a mathematical endpoint," August said. "The process is the interesting part. Every problem is a puzzle. Every solution creates new questions. Money is just, he paused, searching for words, the language we use to quantify value exchange. But the actual mechanisms of that exchange, the systems and protocols and trust frameworks, that's beautiful. Silence on the other end, long enough that August checked if the call had dropped. That's either the most romantic or the most sociopathic thing I've heard about money. Are those mutually exclusive? She laughed again, that same real laugh from the conference room. With you? I honestly don't know. After they hung up, August sat in the dark office, the city lights filtering through the industrial windows, and realized he had no idea what had just happened. Was that a business call? It had started as business, but somewhere around the discussion of OAuth 2.0 protocols, it had felt like something else? He texted Marcus. Had a call with Catherine Jones. Discussed security architecture. Duration, 2 hours, 14 minutes. Unclear if positive development or standard due diligence. Marcus responded immediately. Dude, she called you at 11 p.m. and talked for 2 hours? That's not due diligence. That's called flirting. August, we discussed cryptographic hashing functions. Marcus, I stand by my assessment. Chapter 3, in which coffee becomes complicated. The next message from Catherine came at 7 a.m. Coffee, there's a place on 4th and Main, 8. Come alone. August, who was already awake and on his 3rd cup of coffee while debugging code, responded. Acknowledged. Query, why alone? Is Marcus not invited due to his lack of technical knowledge? Or do you want to discuss terms he shouldn't hear yet? Or is this not actually about business at all? The 3 dots appeared and disappeared 3 times before her response. You don't overthink things at all, do you? August, I've been told I overthink everything, actually. Catherine, that was sarcasm. Oh, thank you for clarifying. Just come. I promise not to murder you. Probably. August, statistics on coffee meeting murders are actually quite low. 0.0003% of coffee meetings result in homicide. Catherine, how do you know that? I looked it up just now. I wanted to assess the risk of your probably. 8. Don't be late or early. August, that's actually quite difficult given variables in traffic patterns, pedestrian flow, and the precise definition of on time. Shall we define that as arrival at the location, entry into the establishment, or visual confirmation of your presence? No wonder Marcus handles sales. The coffee shop was one of those aggressively hip places with exposed brick and baristas with complicated facial hair and a menu that treated coffee like it was liquid artisanal gold. August arrived at exactly 8:29, having timed his walk perfectly. Catherine was already there, in the corner booth, looking effortlessly elegant in jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than August's laptop. She was wearing her glasses today. August hadn't known she wore glasses. It made her look less intimidating. Or more intimidating? He couldn't decide. His brain was already misfiring. You're early, she said as he approached. August checked his phone. 8:30. By 2 seconds, within acceptable margin of error. Sit. She gestured to the seat across from her. I ordered you a coffee. He looked at the cup in front of the empty seat. How did you know what I drink? I guessed. Black coffee, no sugar, no flavor, no nonsense. She was right. August felt oddly exposed by this. Correct. I'm good at reading people, said Catherine. It's my job. I have to assess founders quickly. Are they brilliant or delusional, committed or flaky, worth $10 million or worth running from? And what's your assessment of me? August asked, then immediately regretted it. That was too direct. He was always too direct. Marcus had explained this numerous times. Sorry, you don't have to answer that. That was inappropriate. No, Catherine said, stirring her own coffee, something complicated with foam art that looked like a swan. It's refreshing. You know it's exhausting? People who play games, who say things they don't mean, who perform instead of just being. She looked at him over her glasses, and August felt something in his chest do a complicated maneuver he couldn't quite name. You, she continued, are exactly who you are. All the time, I'd guess. You don't know how to be anything else. Is that a compliment? He'd asked her this before. He was asking again. Yes, she said simply. It is. They talked for 3 hours. The coffee shop cycled through the breakfast rush, the mid-morning lull, and into the early lunch crowd. They discussed the business, term sheets and valuation and equity distribution, but also other things. Catherine's background in finance, starting as an analyst at Goldman Sachs before pivoting to venture capital. August's accidental entry into entrepreneurship after creating a payment solution for his friend's business and realizing it could scale. I didn't plan to be an entrepreneur, August admitted. I was supposed to be an engineer, quiet, behind the scenes. But then Marcus convinced me we should raise money, and suddenly I'm in pitch meetings trying to understand why everyone talks in metaphors. You don't like metaphors? They're imprecise. If you mean something, why not just say it directly? Because, Catherine said, leaning back, the indirect path is more interesting. Because mystery is appealing. Because not everything worth saying has precise language. Like what? Like, she paused, seeming to choose her words carefully, like when you find someone intriguing and you're not sure if you should act on it because it's professionally complicated, but you can't stop thinking about them anyway. August's brain performed several calculations simultaneously. The implications of her word choice, the shift in her tone, the way she was looking at him. Direct, assessing, waiting. Are you, he started, then stopped. Are you speaking hypothetically or specifically? What do you think? I think, August said carefully, that I'm very bad at subtext. Marcus says I miss social cues the way most people miss obscure radio frequencies. So if you're implying something, I'm definitely not catching it. Catherine smiled, really smiled, not the professional version, but something genuine and warm. Okay, let me be direct, since you appreciate directness. I like you, August Reeves, not just as an investment opportunity, as a person, which is complicated because I'm considering funding your company, and mixing business with personal interest is generally a terrible idea that I advise all my founders against. August processed this. So, you're breaking your own rule? I'm considering it, which is unlike me. I'm usually very disciplined. What changed? You, she said simply. You're different, genuine, smart in ways that have nothing to do with social performance. And when you explained cryptographic protocols at midnight like they were poetry, I thought, she laughed, shaking her head, I thought, this man is either completely insane or exactly what I didn't know I was looking for. Those aren't mutually exclusive, August said. No, Catherine agreed. With you, I'm learning they're not. Chapter 4, in which due diligence gets personal. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in professional confusion. Catherine initiated formal due diligence on their company, sending her team to audit their books, review their code, interview their clients. August spent 12-hour days answering questions, providing documentation, and explaining technical decisions to people who nodded like they understood but clearly didn't. And through it all, Catherine kept messaging him. Not about business, about everything else. Catherine. Question. Why do people pretend to like small talk? August. Evolutionary psychology? Social bonding through low-stakes information exchange? Catherine. That's a very August answer. August. Is that good or bad? It's exactly right. They met for coffee again. And then dinner, just to discuss the market landscape, Catherine said, at a restaurant where the menu didn't list prices, which August understood meant too expensive for comfort. He ordered the first thing he saw to avoid the anxiety of choosing. Catherine ordered for both of them instead, reading his panic correctly. You don't like restaurants, she observed. Too many variables, too many unspoken rules. Which fork is for what? Why are there 3 forks? 1 fork is sufficient. What if you need different forks for different tasks? Then you wash the fork between tasks, much more efficient. She laughed, and August was starting to catalog that sound. The pitch, the duration, the way it made something in his chest feel lighter. You're going to think I'm weird, Catherine said. Halfway through a meal August couldn't remember eating because he was too focused on her face, the way she gestured when making a point, the tiny scar above her left eyebrow that he wanted to ask about, but didn't because that seemed too personal. I already think you're weird, August said honestly. You wear shoes that look painful, you drink coffee that costs $8 when a $2 version is chemically identical, and you chose a career where you spend all day telling people why their dreams are mathematically unsound. That's fair, Catherine conceded. But this is different. I don't date, like, ever. Not because I'm not interested in relationships, but because I haven't met anyone who, she paused, searching for words, who makes the complexity worth it. Dating is exhausting. The games, the uncertainty, the performance of it all. Oh, August said. Then, because his filter was missing as usual, but you're considering dating me? Is that what this is? I can't tell. I'm very bad at this. Yes, Catherine said, direct as he'd been. That's what this is. Or could be, if you're interested, which I also can't tell because you're very hard to read. August nearly laughed. Everyone can read me. I'm apparently transparent. No, Catherine shook her head. You're honest, which people confuse with being readable. But I can't tell if you're interested in me romantically or if you just like that I ask direct questions and don't make you navigate subtext. It was possibly the most honest thing anyone had ever said to him. August considered this. He thought about the late-night call, the way his heart rate increased when he saw her name on his phone, how he'd started choosing shirts based on which ones she'd complimented. I think, he said slowly, I'm interested, but I should warn you, I'm terrible at relationships. I forget important dates. I don't understand why people say things they don't mean. I'll probably explain things you don't need explained and miss things you're trying to tell me. I work too much. I talk about work too much. I once gave a girlfriend a book about statistical analysis for her birthday because I thought she'd find it interesting, and she broke up with me 2 days later. Was it interesting? The book? Extremely. Then she missed out, Catherine said. Look, August, I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for honest, and maybe someone who gets that not everyone fits the standard relationship template. What template would we fit? August asked, genuinely curious. I have no idea, but I think figuring it out could be interesting. Interesting is good, August said. I like interesting. Is that a yes? To what specifically? To dating me, to being in a relationship, to, she smiled, exasperated and fond, to whatever this is. August ran the calculations, the professional complications, the statistical likelihood of startup investor relationships ending badly, the fact that he barely understood how relationships worked in the first place. Then he thought about her laugh, the way she explained things clearly when he asked, how she didn't seem bothered by his directness, but rather appreciated it. Yes, he said, I would like to date you, Catherine Jones, though I reserve the right to ask clarifying questions about expectations and boundaries because I will definitely need explicit guidance on relationship protocols. Deal, she said, reaching across the table to take his hand. August looked down at their joined hands, her fingers laced with his, warm and solid and real. Physical touch was usually overwhelming, too much sensory input, but this felt right, like a variable finally clicking into place in an equation. So what now? He asked. Now, Catherine said, we finish this overpriced dinner, then I'll probably invest in your company because your fundamentals are sound and your tech is legitimately innovative. Then we'll figure out how to navigate the extremely messy intersection of business and personal relationships. Then probably everything will be complicated and difficult, and we'll have to establish clear boundaries about when we're being Catherine and August the couple versus Catherine and August the investor and founder. That sounds exhausting. Probably will be. I'm still interested. Good, Catherine said, squeezing his hand, because surprisingly, so am I. Chapter 5, in which everything gets complicated, obviously. The term sheet arrived 1 week later. August read it 17 times, made extensive notes, built a financial model projecting the impact of each term, and then called Catherine at 11 p.m. because he'd lost track of time and had questions. "Do you know what time it is?" she answered, voice thick with sleep. 11 p.m. "I apologize. I didn't consider that you might be sleeping. Most people sleep between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., but I frequently forget that I'm not most people, and others don't keep my schedule. Should I call back tomorrow?" "No, you lunatic. I'm awake now." What's wrong with the term sheet? Nothing's wrong. It's extremely fair, almost suspiciously fair. The valuation is $42 million, which is above the range we discussed. The liquidation preference is 1x non-participating. The board composition gives us majority control. The option pool is reasonable. Either you're secretly the best investor in history, or I'm what? August paused. He was going to say letting personal feelings influence business decisions, but that seemed accusatory. "I'm not sure. It's just very good terms." "August." Catherine's voice had shifted to something fond. "Your company is legitimately promising. Your tech is solid, your team executes, your unit economics work. I would have offered similar terms regardless of whether we were dating." "Really?" "Really. Though I admit I might have done more aggressive diligence if I didn't already spend 3 hours a night talking to you about your security architecture." "That's a conflict of interest." "Possibly, which is why I had my partner review everything independently. He agrees, the deal is sound." "Oh." August processed this. "So this is legitimate business?" "Yes." "And we're also dating?" "Yes." "And those are separate things?" "They should be, yes. But they're not actually separate because we met through business and the business is the context for the relationship and—" "August," Catherine cut him off gently. "We're going to mess this up sometimes. The boundaries are going to blur. We'll have to navigate situations where what's best for the company conflicts with what's best for us personally. It's going to be complicated. Are you okay with complicated?" August thought about this. His whole life was complicated. His brain worked differently, he saw patterns others missed, and missed patterns others saw. He'd spent 30 years learning to navigate a world that didn't quite make sense to him. "I'm familiar with complicated," he said finally. "I can do complicated. Then we'll figure it out together." After they hung up, August sat staring at the term sheet. $42 million valuation, $10 million in funding. Catherine Jones as lead investor and board member. Catherine Jones as girlfriend. His phone buzzed. "Marcus. Saw the term sheet. Holy shit, dude. This is incredible. We're actually doing this. We're going to be huge." August. "Yes, the terms are favorable." "Favorable? They're amazing. Catherine must really believe in us, or really believe in you specifically, or both. How are you not freaking out right now?" "I am freaking out. I'm just doing it quietly and internally like usual." "You okay, though?" "I don't know. I'm dating the person who's investing $10 million in our company. That seems ethically complicated and emotionally risky." "Yeah, it is. But also, maybe it's okay. Maybe sometimes the complicated thing is the right thing. Maybe you found someone who gets you and believes in what we're building. Maybe that's allowed." "Is it?" "I don't know, man, but you're the one who's always telling me that the conventional path isn't always optimal. Maybe this is you actually taking your own advice." August considered this. He'd spent his whole life feeling slightly out of sync with everyone else, learning rules that didn't quite make sense, trying to fit into frameworks that felt arbitrary. Catherine was the first person who seemed to appreciate rather than tolerate his differences. That had to count for something. Chapter 6, in which public relations becomes personal. The investment was announced 3 weeks later. TechCrunch ran the headline, "Silverton Ventures leads $10 million round in payment startup Paystream." The article mentioned August by name, called him a technical founder with deep expertise in blockchain architecture, and included a quote from Catherine about backing exceptional teams solving real problems. What the article didn't mention was that Catherine and August were dating, because they'd agreed to keep that private, because mixing public professional relationships with private personal ones seemed like asking for trouble. Which meant that when they ran into Catherine's colleague David at a restaurant where they were very obviously on a date, things got awkward fast. "Catherine," David approached their table with the enthusiasm of someone who hadn't read the room. "And August, congratulations on the funding. Great to see portfolio founders and investors building rapport outside the boardroom." Thanks, David, Catherine said smoothly. August and I were just discussing Q2 metrics. August, who had been holding Catherine's hand across the table approximately 5 seconds before David appeared, nodded. Yes, metrics. David looked at their wine glasses, the intimate corner table, the fact that Catherine was wearing a dress that was definitely not her boardroom attire. Right, metrics. Very thorough diligence. After he left, August turned to Catherine. He knows. Probably. Is that bad? Potentially. Silverton has policies about investor-founder relationships. They're not forbidden, but they're frowned upon. Complicated from a government's perspective. Should we not be doing this? August asked, feeling anxiety creep up his spine. I don't want to create problems for your career, or mine, or the company. Maybe this was a mistake. Hey, Catherine reached across the table again, taking his hand. Look at me. Do you want to stop seeing me? No. Do you think I'm making bad investment decisions because we're dating? No. Your analysis is always sound. You're extremely competent. It's actually quite attractive how competent you are, which seems like a strange thing to find attractive, but I do. She smiled. Do you think you're building a worse company because we're dating? No. If anything, I'm more motivated because I want to prove that your investment was sound, and also because I don't want to disappoint you personally, which I realize might be emotionally unhealthy but is nonetheless true. Then we're not making a mistake. We're just doing something complicated. And yes, some people will have opinions about it. Some of those opinions might be valid. But August, she squeezed his hand, I'm 34 years old. I've spent my entire adult life being careful, being professional, following all the rules. I've never dated anyone I worked with, never mixed business with personal. And you know what that got me? A great career and a very empty apartment. Your apartment is quite nice, actually. The minimalist aesthetic is calming. It's lonely, August. It's a lonely apartment in a lonely life. And then I met you, and suddenly I wanted to break my rules because you're worth the complication. August felt something shift in his chest. It was uncomfortable and warm and terrifying. I think I'm falling in love with you. I'm not certain because I don't have much comparative data, but the symptoms match what I've read about. Increased heart rate in your presence, inability to focus on tasks when you message me, strong desire to share interesting information with you specifically, and a feeling of dread when I imagine you not being in my life. Catherine laughed, that real laugh he'd cataloged and filed under favorite sounds. That might be the most August way anyone has ever told me they love me. Is it acceptable? It's perfect. And for the record, I think I'm falling in love with you too. The regular way, not the statistical analysis way. What's the regular way? I don't know. But it feels a lot like this. Chapter 7, in which board meetings get weird. The first board meeting after Catherine and August started dating was, predictably, a disaster of professional awkwardness. Catherine sat at the head of the table, perfectly professional in her usual armor of expensive tailoring and carefully neutral expression. August sat 3 seats down, between Marcus and their other board member, trying very hard not to look at her in any way that would reveal that he'd spent the previous night at her apartment and left his favorite hoodie there. Let's discuss burn rate, Catherine said, pulling up a spreadsheet. You're ahead of budget on engineering costs. August, can you explain the headcount variance? August launched into his explanation, noting the additional senior engineers they'd hired to accelerate the enterprise product roadmap. He was careful to be thorough, professional, detailed. He did not mention that Catherine had helped him think through the hiring strategy during their dinner last week, or that she'd pointed out the gap in their mobile expertise while they were watching Netflix on her couch. Makes sense, Catherine said neutrally. Though you're going to need to show ROI on these hires within 2 quarters, or we'll need to revisit the cost structure. Understood. Marcus, who was watching this exchange with barely suppressed amusement, jumped in. We're also seeing strong traction in the mid-market segment. 30 new customers this month, average contract value of $25,000 annually. That's below your target ACV of $35,000, Catherine noted. Yes, but the conversion rate is higher and the sales cycle is shorter. We're trading contract value for velocity. Catherine made a note. Keep monitoring that. Volume is good, but you need to prove you can move up market eventually. The meeting continued. Clinical, professional, everyone carefully maintaining the fiction that nothing had changed. Until the end, when Catherine said, "One more thing, we should discuss governance protocols given the complexity of certain board relationships." August felt his face get hot. Marcus suddenly became very interested in his laptop. The other board member, an experienced operator named Sarah Chen, raised an eyebrow. "Are we talking about something specific?" Sarah asked carefully. "I want to be transparent," Catherine said, and August admired her directness even as he wanted to disappear through the floor. "August and I are dating. It's new, it's potentially complicated from a governance perspective, and I want to make sure everyone is comfortable with how we're managing the potential conflicts." Sarah looked between them, processing. "Okay, that's not what I expected to hear in a board meeting, but I appreciate the honesty. How are you planning to manage it?" "All major decisions involving me or my fund will be approved by our other partners," Catherine said. "I've already established a conflict committee. August and I maintain separate professional and personal boundaries. We don't discuss board matters outside of official channels, and we're both committed to acting in the company's best interest regardless of the personal relationship." "And if the relationship ends badly?" Sarah asked bluntly. August hadn't thought about that. The statistical likelihood of relationships failing was high. Approximately 40 to 50% ended in breakup or divorce. The probability of things ending badly when business and personal were entangled was presumably even higher. "Then we act like adults and maintain our professional obligations," Catherine said. "I don't abandon portfolio companies because of personal issues. August doesn't tank his company because of relationship drama." "Can you guarantee that?" Sarah pushed. "No," Catherine admitted. "I can't guarantee anything. Relationships are inherently uncertain. But I can guarantee that I've thought through the risks and I believe the benefits outweigh them." Sarah looked at August. "And you? You okay with this?" August considered lying, saying something reassuring and confident, but that wasn't who he was. "I'm terrified. The probability of complications is high. The potential for disaster is significant. I'm risking my company, Catherine's reputation, and our relationship itself by trying to manage all three simultaneously. It's objectively a terrible idea." "But," Sarah prompted, "but I'm doing it anyway, because Catherine is important to me, because I've spent 30 years playing it safe and following rules and trying to fit into boxes that were never designed for me. Because for once in my life, I want to choose the complicated, risky, uncertain thing, because she's worth it." The room was silent. Marcus was grinning like an idiot. Sarah looked thoughtful. Catherine's professional mask had slipped slightly, revealing something softer. "Well," Sarah said finally, "I can't argue with that. Just don't make me regret this when I have to mediate your breakup at a board meeting." "Noted," August said. After the meeting, Marcus pulled him aside. "Dude, that was the most romantic thing I've ever heard you say, and you said it in a board meeting while discussing governance protocols. Is that weird?" "It's extremely weird. It's also extremely you. Catherine's a lucky woman." "I think I'm the lucky one. She could date anyone. She chose me. Someone who doesn't understand social norms and explains things too much and forgets birthdays." "Yeah," Marcus said. "She chose the guy who's honest and brilliant and makes her laugh. Stop selling yourself short." Chapter 8, in which everything falls apart, temporarily. 3 months into their relationship, things were going well. The company was growing, 40 employees, millions in revenue, enterprise customers signing on. The investment from Catherine's fund had accelerated everything. They were on track for a Series B by end of year. August and Catherine had settled into a rhythm. Dinner twice a week, weekends at her place, which was slowly accumulating his belongings: a toothbrush, a drawer of clothes, several books on financial cryptography. They texted constantly. She'd learned his patterns. He'd learned to read some of hers. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Until the TechCrunch article. The headline, "Conflict of Interest. Silverton VC's relationship with portfolio founder raises questions. August saw it at 6 a.m., sitting in Catherine's kitchen drinking coffee while she slept. He read it 3 times, feeling something cold settle in his stomach. The article was careful, no direct accusations, just implications. Anonymous sources questioning the investment decision. Suggestions that the relationship had started before the funding. Quotes from industry insiders about the importance of professional boundaries. It was devastating. By 7 a.m., his phone was exploding. Marcus, Sarah, their PR firm, every group chat he was in. And notably, nothing from Catherine. He went back to the bedroom. She was awake, sitting up in bed, phone in hand, face pale. "You saw it," she said. Not a question. "Yes." "August, Is it true?" he interrupted. "Did people really question your investment decision? Did your partners actually have concerns?" "Some, initially, but we addressed them. The conflict committee approved everything. The terms were fair. This is it's gossip, industry drama, someone with an axe to grind." "But they're saying we were dating before the investment. That's not true. We weren't. We met, then you did diligence, then you invested, then we started dating. The timeline is clear." "I know that. You know that. But August," she looked miserable, "perception matters. And right now, the perception is that I let personal feelings influence a professional decision." Even if it's not true, even if all our processes were followed, this kind of story can stick. What does that mean for us? I don't know. They spent the next week in damage control mode. Catherine met with her partners. August met with the board. Everyone wanted to review the timeline, the decision-making process, the independence of the investment committee. It was exhausting and humiliating and made August want to quit everything and go back to being a regular engineer who didn't have to navigate this kind of complexity. The worst part was that he and Catherine barely talked. She was managing the fallout at her firm. He was managing the perception with their customers and team. They texted sporadically, brief, professional updates. No jokes, no late-night calls about nothing, just crisis management. After 8 days of silence, August went to her office. Unannounced. Probably inappropriate. He didn't care. Her assistant tried to stop him. "She's in meetings all day." "I'll wait," August said, and sat down in the waiting area. 4 hours later, Catherine emerged from a conference room, saw him, and froze. "Hi," he said. "You can't be here," she said. "Not right now. It looks bad." "Everything looks bad. Everything is bad. But I need to talk to you, and you won't answer my calls, and I don't know how to do this anymore." Catherine looked around. The assistants pretending not to watch. The junior associates walking past too slowly. "Not here. Downstairs. Coffee shop. 10 minutes. In the coffee shop, away from the eyes of Silverton Ventures, Catherine looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. August probably looked the same. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I've been handling this all wrong. I got scared and pulled away, and that wasn't fair to you." "What are you scared of? Losing my job? Losing my reputation? Losing the respect of my peers? Proving everyone right who said mixing business and personal was a mistake?" She paused. "Losing you because this all becomes too complicated to manage." "Are you losing your job?" "No, my partners are standing by me. The conflict committee confirmed everything was done properly. The article was baseless speculation. But August, this won't be the last time. There will always be questions, always speculation. People will always wonder if our relationship affected business decisions. Will it? I don't know. I try to be objective. I have processes and checks and balances. But yes, I care about you. And yes, that means I want your company to succeed on a personal level that goes beyond just financial returns. Is that a conflict of interest? Maybe. Probably. But it's also unavoidable." August processed this. "So what do we do?" "I don't know," Catherine admitted. "Part of me thinks we should end this, make it clean, remove the complication, go back to just being investor and founder." Something in August's chest went tight. "Is that what you want?" "No, God, no. August, the last 8 days have been miserable, not just because of the article and the stress, but because I couldn't talk to you. Couldn't call you and complain about idiotic opinions. couldn't hear you explain something random at midnight, couldn't just be with you. And I realized that I don't want to go back, even if it's complicated, even if people will always speculate. Then we don't, August said. It's not that easy. It is, actually. We're already doing the hard thing. We're managing the complexity. We have processes and boundaries and conflict committees. We can't control what people say or think. We can only control our own actions. And our actions have been ethical and appropriate and professional. You make it sound so logical. It is logical. People are uncomfortable with our relationship because it doesn't fit the standard template. But the standard template hasn't worked for either of us. Maybe this is better. Catherine smiled. Small, but real. How are you so certain? I'm not. I'm terrified. But I'm certain that I want to try. That you're worth trying for. She reached across the table, taking his hand. Okay. Okay, we try. We keep doing this complicated thing. We deal with the gossip and the speculation and the occasional article questioning our ethics. We prove, through our actions over time, that we can manage this appropriately. That sounds exhausting. Probably will be. I'm still in. Good, because I am too. Chapter 9, in which things get better, mostly. 6 months later, at their Series B closing dinner, August stood up to give a toast. This was Marcus's idea. You should thank the people who believed in us. August, who hated public speaking, had agreed because refusing seemed ungrateful. The room was full of investors, board members, key employees, advisors. Catherine sat near the back, deliberately not at the head table, maintaining appropriate boundaries, even at a celebration. August cleared his throat. Everyone went quiet. He hated this part. I'm not good at speeches, he started. I'm better with code and data and things that have clear logic. People are complicated. Relationships are complicated. Business relationships are complicated. And business relationships that become personal relationships, he paused, extremely complicated. Some knowing laughs. Catherine was smiling. When we started this company, I didn't understand why investors asked about vision and passion instead of just reviewing our unit economics. I didn't understand why people said things they didn't mean. I didn't understand why everyone made business so personal. He found Catherine's eyes across the room. But I've learned something. Maybe business is supposed to be personal. Maybe the best outcomes happen when people actually care, not just about returns, but about the humans involved, about building something meaningful, about taking risks on people who are different. Our lead investor took a risk on me, not just financially, though yes, $10 million is a risk, but personally. She believed that someone who doesn't fit the standard founder template could still build something valuable. She believed that being direct and honest and different could be strengths, not weaknesses. She believed in me when I didn't fully believe in myself. He raised his glass. So thank you to everyone who believed in this company, to everyone who believed in this team, and specifically to Catherine Jones, who taught me that complicated is okay, that relationships, business or personal, don't have to fit templates to work, that sometimes the best thing you can do is choose the uncertain, risky, complicated path because it leads somewhere worth going. The room applauded. Catherine's eyes were suspiciously bright. Marcus was definitely crying. Sarah Chen was smiling. After dinner, on the roof deck of the restaurant, August found Catherine looking out at the city lights. That was quite a speech, she said. I'm told I was too honest. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to make it so obviously about you specifically. I liked it, though we're definitely going to be in another article tomorrow about our unprofessional relationship. Let them write it. We know the truth. We're both good at our jobs. The company is succeeding. Our relationship works. Everything else is just noise. Catherine turned to face him, and in the city lights, she looked exactly like she had that first day in the conference room. Intimidatingly beautiful, sharply intelligent, completely out of his league. Except now she was also his, somehow. This brilliant, complicated woman who'd chosen him back. I love you, she said. I don't say it enough because I get caught up in maintaining boundaries and managing perception, but I do. I love you, August Reeves. I love your weird brain and your midnight analysis and your complete inability to lie. I love that you make me want to break my rules. I love that you're complicated. I love you too, August said, in the statistical analysis way and also in the regular way. All the ways, whatever ways there are. She kissed him, and somewhere below people were probably taking photos, and tomorrow there would probably be speculation, and eventually there would be more complications because life was complicated, and relationships were complicated, and mixing business with personal was definitely complicated. But right now, 30 stories up, with Catherine's hand in his and the city spread out below them like a circuit board of lights and possibilities, August thought complicated was good. Complicated meant interesting. Complicated meant worth it. So what now? Catherine asked, echoing his question from months ago. Now, August said, we figure out the next complicated thing. Together. Because apparently that's what we do. Sounds exhausting. Probably will be. I'm still in. Good, because so am I. And they were. Despite the articles and the speculation and the occasional awkward board meeting, despite the fact that August still forgot important dates and Catherine still worked too much, and they still had to navigate the extremely messy intersection of professional and personal boundaries, despite all of it, they made it work. Because some complications are worth it. Some risks are worth taking, and sometimes the person who makes the least sense on paper makes the most sense in practice. Sometimes you find someone who understands that you don't fit the template, someone who appreciates your differences instead of tolerating them, someone who makes you want to be brave enough to choose the complicated path. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that person also happens to have $10 million to invest in your startup. Epilogue. 18 months later. The Series C announcement hit the press at 9 a.m. PayStream raises $50 million at $300 million valuation. August read the headline on his phone while sitting in Catherine's kitchen. Their kitchen now, technically, since he'd officially moved in 3 months ago, though it had really happened gradually over the year before that. Catherine emerged from the bedroom, already dressed for her day. Congratulations, your company is officially a unicorn in waiting. Our company, August corrected. You own 12%. Don't remind me, the conflicts get more complicated every round. But she was smiling. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Did you see we're trending on Twitter? Also, half the comments are about you and Catherine, not about the funding round. You've officially made tech romance a thing. We're trending, August told Catherine. Of course we are. Tech Twitter loves our story. Star-crossed lovers, conflicts of interest, the autistic founder and the venture capitalist. We're like a startup fairy tale. You know I'm not comfortable with people using my diagnosis as narrative shorthand for my personality. I know, I'm sorry. People are reductive. She kissed the top of his head while reaching past him for the coffee. How do you feel? About the round, not about Twitter. Good, scared, excited, worried about scaling challenges, concerned about maintaining culture with 150 employees, anxious about justifying the valuation, generally terrified, but in a good way? That's my favorite August answer. Terrified, but proceeding anyway. I learned from the best. They'd learned a lot over the past 18 months. How to maintain boundaries when tired. How to disagree about business without making it personal. How to make it personal without compromising the business. When to recuse themselves from decisions. When to trust their processes. How to ignore speculation while still being accountable to legitimate concerns. It wasn't perfect. They still messed up sometimes. Catherine still occasionally slipped into VC mode during casual conversations. August still sometimes treated their relationship like a logic puzzle to be optimized. They'd had fights about whether his technical decisions were influenced by her strategic advice. They'd had arguments about whether she was being too hands-off to avoid appearance of favoritism. But they figured it out. They kept figuring it out. That was the thing about complicated. It didn't get simpler. You just got better at navigating it. I have a board meeting at 10, Catherine said, checking her watch. You? Product review at 11. Then Marcus wants to celebrate the round. Then I told Sarah I'd review the cap table with her. Then I'm supposed to do a podcast interview about, he made air quotes, the future of FinTech and finding love in unexpected places. You're gonna hate that. So much. But our PR person says it's good for the brand, whatever that means. It means you're the face of the company, and apparently also the face of tech romance. I didn't sign up for that second part. No, Catherine agreed. You just fell in love with your investor and refused to be reasonable about it. You fell in love with your portfolio founder. That's equally unreasonable. True, we're both idiots. Happy idiots, though. Yeah, Catherine said, kissing him properly this time. Happy idiots. She left for her meeting. August sat in their kitchen, in their apartment, looking at the Series C announcement on his phone. $50 million. $300 million valuation. 30 months from first pitch to near unicorn status. And through all of it, Catherine, his investor, his board member, his partner. His person. Marcus was right. They'd made tech romance a thing. But not the fairy tale version Twitter liked, the real version. The complicated version, where you had to navigate conflicts and boundaries and professional obligations while also being in love. Where you had to be both investor and founder and Catherine and August and figure out when each applied. It was exhausting and complicated and sometimes made August want to run away and become a regular engineer who didn't have to manage any of this. But then he thought about Catherine's laugh, the way she made complicated feel manageable, how she'd believed in him when he barely believed in himself, how she'd taken a risk on both his company and his heart. And he thought, yeah, this is worth it. All of it. The complicated parts, the uncertain parts, the parts that don't fit the template, especially those parts. His phone buzzed again. Catherine, forgot to say I love you before I left. I love you, even when you're trending on Twitter for weird reasons. August, I love you too, even when you have to pretend not to know me in board meetings. That's literally never. I always acknowledge you in board meetings. But professionally, not personally. August, we're literally planning our future together. We just closed a $50 million round on a company we built together. Every board meeting is personal. Every decision is personal. We're way past pretending otherwise. August smiled at his phone. She was right. They'd stopped pretending months ago. The boundaries existed, the processes remained, but the fundamental truth was unavoidable. They were in this together. The business, the relationship, all of it. August, you're right, as usual. This is why I date someone smarter than me. Catherine, I'm not smarter. That's a form of intelligence I lack, which makes you smarter in that domain. Catherine, are you really going to analyze the definition of intelligence right now? Yes. Is that wrong? No, it's extremely you. It's perfect. You're perfect. Now go build your unicorn. I'll see you tonight. August put his phone down. He had a product review in an hour, a celebration to plan, a podcast interview to endure, a company to scale, a future to build, and someone to build it with, someone who understood that complicated was okay, that different was okay, that sometimes the best thing you could do was ignore all the people saying something wouldn't work and do it anyway. Sometimes you had to choose the uncertain path, the risky investment, the relationship that didn't fit the template. Sometimes you had to be brave enough to be complicated. And sometimes, if you were very, very lucky, you found someone equally brave to be complicated with. August Reeves was many things. Founder, engineer, terrible at social cues, excellent at cryptography, completely in love with his lead investor. But most importantly, he was happy, complicated, and happy. And really, what more could anyone ask for? The end.
I love making these videos for you. If you liked this story, then please like, subscribe to my channel, and switch on the notifications for more entertaining stories. Please also leave a comment for any story suggestions.